Welcome to another edition of FITTV, and we'll be right back.
I've been laid out from work, my rent is due. My kids all need brand new shoes. So I went to the bank to see what they could do. They said, son, look like bad luck got a hold on you, but it's too tight to mention. I can't get an unemployment extension.
It is the state that is far more responsible for men being behind in child support than the fathers they pursue. Fathers are being forced to pay beyond their means, and decent fathers are being manufactured as deadbeats so that funding can keep coming to create a pocket of money available for them. Lawyers are dancing around the feet of divorcing mothers for their reward, resulting in women out-petitioning men for divorce 4-to-1. Divorce has become a gold rush for women, lawyers, judges, and the bureaucracy of divorce to end a marriage, with the father left childless, broke, and bleeding. I have with me to discuss the issue of the manufacturing of deadbeats by our government, Glen Svaboda, who's an FITTV contributor for many years. Hi, Glen.
Hi, how you doing, Chris?
You're a special guest, and I know you have been remiss for quite a while, but I know you've been doing a lot of things on your own, so bring us up to speed. What have you been doing lately?
Yes, we've been pretty much politically active, and we've been for over 10 years. I've been keeping in touch with a lot of assemblymen, senators, congressmen, and making small headways. Of course, with the TV show Families in Transition, I deal with Cheryl Zimmer from Judge Freundlich and Judge Leese's office. That's the media department. So
in Suffolk County.
Yes, yeah, and so we're always abreast of up and coming issues.
How are they handling your requests?
Well, they never tell me the results. We've recently, about 2 years ago, we've brought up that there was a problem of emancipation. The Suffolk County Probation Intake Unit was refusing to file petitions to emancipate your children. And as you know, they don't do this automatically. So, I mean, of course, through the TV show, we've met fathers paying child support when their children are 35 years old and actually going to jail. So I brought this up through Judge Leese. And they finally had put a television set in the courthouses. What do I do when my child turns 21? So they do listen to us. So we do make a small amount of headway here. So I know you're always busy with the TV stuff, and so that's why we're out in the streets a little bit.
You know, I'm always totally on board with that which is a miscarriage of justice, and certainly child support is a miscarriage of justice no matter how you cut it. I've tried to be fair with feminists who helped develop these laws and the legislators at the state level to say what was their concern. But what I notice is a complete obliviation of the needs of the child. They've been, sorry, the word is obviated. They obviate the needs of the child. So when you're talking about a fixed dollar amount on the parent, you're not talking about something that applies need first. That's not a need first, that's a money first situation.
That's correct.
And when the money becomes a focus point, that's when the corruption can begin.
Yes, exactly.
Right. And some of the ways are licensing. What are they doing to these
people?
I'll
tell you what, for instance, anytime you go to the, anything from the Child Support Enforcement Bureau always has little children's or little babies' hands on them, and actually the children are almost last as far as when it comes to any kind of satisfaction.
So when you go to court, the kids never show up in court with you, and
yes,
there's certainly no information that the kids have that the judge wants to know about. He only wants to know what dollar amount you owe so they can keep their own progress going.
Yes, that's always the issue is how much money. What I found out is how much money can the counties generate. It's again, I find that the state is first, the counties is second. We've just had a bulletin, by the way, put out from Suffolk County by Alan Schneider, the civil service director, that Suffolk County has been the largest. Let's see, New York State counties collects court-ordered child support over $100 million in collections for 7 years in a row. Suffolk is the only county in the state outside of New York to ever reach over $100 million. So in our research, which is very vast, we see that there are little games played in Suffolk County to put people in the arrears.
Yeah, that amount of money in Suffolk County doesn't warrant it because the population's not there. So what you're after is what looks obvious to me in Suffolk County. They're using it as a toy to see how much they can get away with before the populace will scream. They're also second in domestic violence funding, and they're first in child support funding.
That's correct.
And they're producing them certainly a lot of money with a small number of people. That means Suffolk County must be Badlands.
Yes, it's a pioneer state, yes, which is a good point, because right now in Suffolk County, legislator Dwayne Gregory is sponsoring a bill, which is IR 1314, which we've been following, which is going to put the anybody involved in orders of protection will be putting them upon a conviction, which we know the conviction record of orders of protection in Suffolk County range about 85% of them are bogus and unfounded. Right. So we see how detrimental this is going to be. So they're trying to make them a registered offender, where if you get convicted of a domestic violence charge, and we know how serious this is, they hand out these orders of protection in Suffolk County like candy canes. They're going to make you register just like a sex offender. And with such a high suicide rate, Chris, in Suffolk County of men, which has only increased since Mr. Levy took office.
Before I get to the suicide rate, I do want to spend more time on that subject, but the public should know that the false allegations of abuse are run rampant. They're also an excuse for people for the legal system to use a weapon as custody, to get custody. False allegations created, and sometimes the orders of protection will follow. Domestic violence is following that. Child support is following the need to have the father get angry. It's usually the father's paying the child support, which could advance acrimony with these unreal states that they put him in. So it's a big, tremendous circle of misinformation and very, very poor way to manage the public in terms of parenting.
Yes, well, that's why it was very important that we did show up on the subject of Dwayne Gregory's bill, as far as making this a registered offense, because to be quite honest with you, there is a lot of members here in Suffolk County that are going to get a lot of jobs here in Suffolk County. It's going to make a lot, and the problem that I have is that, you know, we need our police and our sheriffs to go after the mass drug dealing that's going on in our communities, and we can't have our paid police to be going after innocent families. I mean, they're really kind of terrorizing hardworking innocent families. So I mean, you know, let's be honest.
That's domestic
terrorism. That's correct. And you know how terrorism is. I mean, where I watch the police department sometimes avoid a drug deal or some kind of altercation in the street because they're afraid of getting hurt, but yet they'll go and terrorize the house right next door to a drug dealer's house. And I see this with my own eyes.
There's a National Association of Child Support Action which published a scroll called the Book of the Dead, and it chronicles 55 cases where the claimed official court coroner concluded that fathers were driven to suicide because of the judgments they received in family and divorce courts.
Yes.
This may not be a familiar tune to John Q. Public. I believe it is not. However, it is clearly a growing number. Wouldn't you say that?
It's absolutely. Since we've followed it with FIT, it has increased since Mr. Steve Levy has taken office by 20%. It's now 10 men to 1 woman committing suicide. And I live in the Mastic Beach, Shirley area, and quite honestly, there is a tremendous amount of divorced fathers that move there because they can't afford to live anyplace else. But we have a new phenomenon taking place here, is now it's murder-suicide. I mean, people are tired of being a designated loser, and they think it's their wife or their spouse causing this. It's really the county that's causing, they're fueling the flames, and they're generating so much work for the attorneys. Don't forget, we have the highest death rate from attorneys in the nation and the most attorneys per capita in the nation here in Suffolk County.
Well, in the state of New York also has more attorneys than any other country.
Yes, and
There's no country that has as many attorneys as the state of New York. So
it's not called fatherlessness, New York, for nothing.
Yeah, well, this fatherlessness is creating a huge deficit in the school systems. It's carrying through for families.
Yes.
It's creating more dysfunction. It's breaking down the center of what family once was.
Yes.
we want to know, maybe in some of your work you've been able to get somebody to take a look at the real value of what family is all about. I mean, is anybody really looking at, you know what, this is, just in case you don't know, if you take too much money from this side of the equation, you're going to cause them not to be able to handle something else. It's
yes, that's some of the work we've been doing, Chris. Just so you know, on September 15th, I went to the New York State Judiciary Institute in White Plains, and I spoke with Judge Townsend and Judge Juanita Binghamton, who was very generous because we receive all the complaints in families in transition. We get all the phone calls of the injustices done, and I've done several TV shows in this past year in regards to this. And you remember Judge Jackie Silberman, and we used to have the public forums in Manhattan. Well, she took this over and invited us in her room, and I went over several injustices with her.
Is this Manhattan?
Yeah, this is White Plains.
White Plains.
This was on September 15th. And I spoke to her regarding, number one, we receive a lot of complaints in families in transition, and my personal interviews where the high unemployment that we're receiving here in Suffolk County, these fathers are then told to go to the probation intake unit and file a petition to do a modification because they've lost their job. And so the probation intake unit files a petition, and then these non-custodial parents, mostly fathers, they get a letter in the mail that the case is dismissed. So they don't even give them a day in court. They dismiss it, and Judge Townsend was shocked for me to hear that. And just so you know, on the 16th, the Toro Law School, which is paid from Suffolk County, puts out a free seminar for non-custodial fathers, and I happened to go there. And I just wanted to make sure that once I see the little hands, the baby hands around there, I know it's not about helping fathers. It's supposed to be about helping fathers.
Right.
First off, the whole room was full with fathers, and they were not getting the answers that they deserved. I filled in the truth, what needs to be done. And there's a tremendous amount of issues. So they went over some of these things, what to do, how to file a petition. I said, no, you're not going to, they don't do that. I said, they dismiss them. So they agreed what I was saying to be the truth. And we need to be there all the time now to sit in on these meetings.
Well, one of the best things that we can do is continue to promote mediation, because in mediation, everybody gets joint custody, and the child support awards are fair. They don't I don't have to, as a mediator, I don't have to do anything that doesn't seem fair to them, because all I'm doing is asking them what would they like to have for their children going forward.
Exactly.
As soon as you put the children at a higher level and take the parents out of the equation, the needs show up immediately.
Yes.
When you get the needs involved, the expenses going in and expenses going out, the parents can figure out what they're doing.
Yes.
So mediation is definitely the way to go.
I've been agreeing with that for over a decade, and I just want you to be aware with this bill that Dwayne Gregory is trying to put out, and a lot of the Democrats are trying to support him, and you'll be surprised how some of the Republicans want to support him. This is what's going to happen. This is put out from the family court. The first thing they do with wanting to ram these orders of protection down their throats against many of the parents, they don't even want them. The court almost insists. I've sat out in the hallways and interrupted these cases. They want to give these orders of protection. This is what the family court's papers are. This is what they hand out for the petitions. Family court orders of protection, what you can expect, what you can ask for. The abuser to be removed from the home. The abuser to stay away from your home and your place of business. I'm just reading only a few out of about 12. The abuser stay away from your children and their school and or daycare. And listen to this. This is before you're divorced. You be awarded temporary custody.
Yeah. Oh my God.
You be awarded temporary child support. This is Suffolk County. This is the manufacturing of deadbeat dads. And then let me explain to you, Chris, you need to know what goes on in one of the games. They put you on the support collection unit. And I've been complaining about this for 2 years. So you go to the hearing that day, 1 week goes by, you send your ex-wife a check, second week goes by, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, you're paying your ex-wife like you've been paying for 2-3 years. You get this envelope from the family court, a big monster envelope, and it says you have to pay your coupons once a week to open. In the meantime, they put you 8 to 12 weeks in the arrears right off the bat. Suffolk County makes an extra third per week because you're immediately in the arrears.
So the audience is clear. someone with a certain amount of child support that they either agreed to or didn't agree to, by the way, doesn't mean that they agreed to these
That's
amounts.
right.
Whether this amount is within the guidelines or not within the guidelines is also not part of the, can also cause to pay for monies beyond their capability.
Right.
They can be averaged when they don't know. There's all kinds of funny laws that exist
yes.
in the DRLs.
Forget about the guidelines.
The 240 series. And you could start out paying your first support check 1.5, 2 times what your original support or your affordable support amount is. And once you start paying that amount, they could take you back in. I found this out from some other people. And then stick you with that amount forever.
Yes.
And then if you go behind, you're in more arrears. And
yes.
then there's interest and penalty on the arrears.
Yes.
It's one big, huge money-making scheme
yes.
that the government is taking from you.
Okay,
you got that, everybody out there? The government's taking money from you illegally. It's confiscation.
Yes.
Okay.
I have a name for that. That's called the deliberate and intentional overcharging of child support arrears. This is exactly what I went up to speak.
This
to
is the
Judge
manufacturing of people in
exactly.
debt.
Yes.
There used to be a debtor's prison years ago.
Still is.
It's about 100
Still
years
is.
ago. Well, they supposedly eliminated it. This is the newest version of it.
Yes.
And it's been going on for how many years now?
Well, I guess since the early 90s.
Well,
yes,
in 89 is when the Child Support Standards Act was passed, but the subsequent amendments and additions that have transferred into all this mess is doing nothing but taking money from you out there and giving it to government so that the judges, lawyers, parking lot attendants, court clerks, you name it, can have a job.
That's
and
correct.
They're taking it from you.
Yep. That's why I said the probation intake unit, they give the probation intake unit a job to file the applications, the orders, and they dismiss them by mail. So, I mean, this is giving work to certain union members here in Suffolk County.
A long time ago, I wrote an article called "The Manufactured Deadbeat." I know you remember that.
Yes, that's how I met you. Yes.
Everybody, and that's when I first began to look at the studies on the subject. That article still survived. Apparently, still people have it. They still
we
hold
talk
it up.
about it today to this day.
And the situation is exactly the same. The politicians have bowed before the party at that time. The feminists had the dominating control of the Democratic Party, walked that through, unrealistic as it was. And this is a lot of it is going on nationwide, but it's really, really bad here in New York. And that allowed them to continue to churn money up, to take more government and more money and more of your tax dollars in what I call nothing else but confiscation.
Right. Well, what they do is they want to put you in the arrears, and then after you get a certain amount of the arrears, they take away your driver's license. I believe it's $3,500. They take away your driver's license, and I want you to know that.
And by the way, that doesn't stop the arrears; it continues.
That's correct. And then what happens is they withhold you.
So you're without a job and without a car.
That's correct.
And you still pay more than you paid before because now you don't have the ability to get to work. Or you could lose your job, and that won't matter either.
Just being put on the support collection unit, employers will not hire you or they will fire you. And I've also brought this up at the Toro Law School on the 16th of September. Most employers, I have 2 of you guys already, I don't want any more, because the average employer, I've been working with us with the NFIB, the National Federation of Independent Business.
And you guys meaning child support papers.
Yeah, the average employer spends 20 minutes per week to file the child support. Go to the bank, go to the post office, write separate checks, make sure it's mailed out, fill the coupons out.
Right.
So they want to terminate you. So you can't ask for any amount of money. There are things that we could talk about to help non-custodial parents, but they'd have to give you a call. I'd be happy to speak to these people.
And the employer's trying to run a business. He doesn't have to. This is an expense for the employer. He hasn't got the time to go try to fix the law. And because we've been at this for some 20 years, I can tell you the employer would be running the same 20-year course.
Let me tell you, I followed these cases when they get fired because of the Child Support Enforcement Bureau. You could go to unemployment and say, I was fired because I have to pay child support, and you can't collect unemployment because the arbitrators will say it's detrimental to the employer. So having this obligation rammed down your throat. So that's just another one of the things that we've spoken about. But I just wanted to let you know they are taking vehicles. Suffolk County is very aggressively taking vehicles right now. I know I brought,
When does the punitive measures stop? When do they stop?
Until they're out to zero. What I want you to be aware of, though, is that if you bought a car and you think everything is peachy keen, if you have a loan on it, you think they're not going to take it. What they do is they wait for you to pay the loan down. When you start paying the loan down, say you bought a used car, $15,000. When you start getting around $3,000, $4,000, left on the loan, and the book value might still be $9,000. That's when they're going to scoff this vehicle. So don't think because they haven't taken your vehicle at this point. I have one of the impound stickers. Could you hand me that there?
Yeah.
A sec. This is just one of the
get that, Mike?
stickers that they'll come. They'll send the Suffolk County Police Department down to your house, and they'll stick the sticker on your vehicle. They'll tow it away. They'll bring it to
a little higher. Just that high. That's good.
They'll bring it to a place in Plainview on Terminal Drive, statewide auto auctions. And they'll auction that vehicle off.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
And so there's been other things that we've been also doing. I don't know if you wanted to hear any more about that.
Well, we want to know, like, when a state, like, I have a child support blog I go to every now and then. A couple of the comments I have here, these people should have to prove what they spend that money, like they do in Montana. In Montana, they say, okay, what's the money that you're spending? Let's see the receipt for everything that you're spending for your child. And then that gets to be shared in terms of the overall expenses based on the parents. Montana has a great idea.
Yes.
And if the parent in Montana gets remarried, child support ends.
Right. Well, that's what. That happens
Isn't that
here.
a novel idea?
That happens here. I mean, they move in with all kinds of paramours. And it's just a free for all for making money. But again, the children are the last thing that really gets the money out of this here.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. That's what his original intention is. But of course, it never works out that way. What else do you have up and coming in the near future?
Well, I just wanted to let you know, a couple of years ago, we had a bill that was put out by Patricia Eddington, which was A9622A. Patricia Eddington wanted to make child support arrears of $3,500 or more a Class E felony, which would be, I might as well live in Afghanistan, at that point. And much to my surprise, our friend John Flanagan was the co-sponsor on the Republican ticket. I mean, I literally almost passed out when I heard it. I just recently called him because Patricia Eddington wants to sponsor that again. You
know how politicians, unfortunately, they get caught up in certain things, in quid pro quos. Well, if you do this for me, I'll do that for you.
Yes. Boy, do I know that.
It's hard for me to gather that he would do that, but I'll certainly address it with him. I know him personally.
Yes, so I spoke to him on your behalf this past week. So Patricia Eddington is going to resubmit that bill. They weren't too happy on giving me the name of that bill number, because I know there'll be a different bill number on it, but to make these overinflated child support arrearages Class E felony, I just see much more murder-suicide on the horizon here in Suffolk County. It's just
we'll follow up the suicide thing. I want some real serious statistics going backwards a little bit. We've had several people on the show who have had a family member who has committed suicide.
Yes.
And committed suicide because of the objection. They found it objectionable that money would be the only thing that the state really wants. It doesn't want to solve the marital issue.
That's correct.
It doesn't want to help. It's actually not able to. People should know when they go to court, if you're going to solve a marital issue, you went to the wrong place. You're not going to court to solve a marital issue. You're going there to get your money confiscated somehow. It's just going out the door, and that's all there is to it. Stay out of court. Heavy duty advice.
Well said. We've been trying for that legislation for, again, over 10 years. It hasn't happened. It's too many people getting rich off your children.
Yeah, and that's the bureaucracy of divorce. We've talked about that. We've done a program called The Bureaucracy of Divorce one day, and we went through all of that. What else? Who's favorable of the legislators here that you say is favorable of checking these child support laws?
Well, I think it's us. I think there's too many career politicians out there. I was hoping that we could deal with maybe Fred Thiel. Eventually, I spoke to him about you. I wanted to have him on the show one time. We'll see what he could do for us. But to be honest with you, I don't see any relief whatsoever. The county is in hock. The state is in hock. The federal government, all the congressmen do not want to buck this system. The Republicans don't want to buck the system. And of course, the Democrats would love to see this system continue. I do not see any relief at all. And I just want the parents out there to realize that if they do go to this Toro Law School, there is true things that could be done for the help of the non-custodial parent. Though it's very minute, it's much more than what the Toro Law School, and which is run by the family court, by the way, is going to offer these viewers for any kind of help. We could give them the help. I answered the phone. When I worked in your office full-time, it just remind you, Steve Levy used to send us clients all the time. I still deal with Steve Levy and Jasmine. We need to constantly, right now, pressure them.
Well, we're going to continue to try that. The societal trends, as I say in my closing, which you'll hear a little bit later on, breaking down the family that once was a cornerstone of our great American culture, is absolutely what it is. And this child support system, it's a bureaucracy, it's a machine, is certainly one of the reasons why we can't get control of things. They're taking our money. I mean, when they take your money, what have you got left?
Nothing.
As an FITTV commentary, I want to read that it is hardly surprising that some fathers who have been worked over eventually do disappear. Anyone who has been plundered, harassed, vilified, and incarcerated, and also alienated from the children, on the pretext of supporting children, taken from him by force and whom he is not permitted even to see, will eventually reach the limits of his endurance. We should all know how much can you stand when your money is taken, your children are taken, and you have everything that you've once worked for is now gone. And that's why the term the absent father was used in a lot of the legislation in the past. The absent father is now a forced out father, or the title of the show is now a manufactured deadbeat. Somebody who cannot adjust to the criminality that the government is imposing on them.
Yep.
So you're going to do some more political work?
Well, I'll tell you, there was just a couple of more things. Recently, I worked with Phyllis Barbarino, who used to be the president of the AME. They took off the part where the AME. They took off the part about they work with the Child Support Enforcement Bureau based on the suicides. I had one more brief thing to tell you. The Commissioner of Jurors, we worked with FIT, that if you have to pay child support, how can you go to jury duty? You'll be put in jail if you go to jury duty, and they're trying to pass legislation. If you don't go to jury duty, you're going to be put into jail. Mr. O'Donoghue said, right on there, you have to pay child support. And I just want your viewers to know that.
No, you should, and you should also know that 90% of these people are fathers. We should know that we are jailing fathers inappropriately. And an FITTV short close factoid, it is now well known that virtually every social pathology of our time, from violent crime to substance abuse to truancy, correlates more strongly to fatherless homes than to any other single factor, surpassing poverty and race, which is used on one political side of the equation constantly, that it's a race and it's a poverty issue. Factor is that, at the FITTV factor, if you will, is that the father out of the house is more significant in terms of the mental health of your children. We should all know that. Glenn, I want to thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate all your work for the whole crew still for over 10 years going.
We'll stay on the case. And as I said before in my closing, it says, child support included in here somewhere, societal and political trends are rapidly breaking down the family that once was the cornerstone of our great American culture. At FIT, we know you cannot get this information on your own, so people like Glenn and myself will help bring it to you every single week. And of course, we always invite all opposing views, but they won't come on because then they'll have to tell the truth, and then we'll expose them, and it'll be too sloppy for them. My name is Chris DiMaggio. Thank you very much for watching FITTV, and we'll see you again next week.